Hi, I'm Elesha. I'm so excited about what's to come in 2017. We are Don't Lose Yourself, and this is an organization for women and youth, and it's founded on Mark 12:30 through 31. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So we're excited about the many conferences that are coming up, and the first one is entitled A War for Worth. This is one of the many topics that we'll be discussing in our women's discussion groups, and this is for people of all ages, like younger women all the way up to older ladies as well. So we want this to be a multi-generational affair, and so please join us. So the first topic is A War for Worth. And what is worth? Who or what determines our worth? So what I've learned in my experience is that a lot of us find our worth through our ability to perform for others and the validation that we receive from others. And most of the time that validation comes from our relationships, whether it be our intimate relationships, our friendships, or just our relationships with people passively. And so it's important that we talk about worth so that we are not labeled, or we're not valued based upon what other people think. When I was talking to one of my mentors, she said that, you know, I'm a teacher, and so she was talking about how we're a product of our experiences. And so I said, I'm a math teacher. Product means multiply. So let's think about this whole experience thing as a multiplication problem. So experience times experience, and that's me. And so I would think about the fact that a lot of us, our experiences are things that people have dumped on us, whether it be unhealed hurt from our mothers and fathers, or our grandparents, or whether it be just experiences that we've gone through and we've never really healed from, as well as we're a product of the emptiness too that we've experienced. It's a natural state of our souls to be empty and needy, and so I think a lot of us have never been properly filled, and so we realize that we're not properly filled, and so we become kind of like this restroom girl who's been filled with like the demands of social media, the demands of everyone around her, and just the hurt that has never been resolved. And so we look at this girl, and she is a mess. And we're like, I'm tired of being a mess. So you dress it up. So you have this girl that looks like a restroom girl who is young, but now she's older. She got the curves, and she got the crown. And now she's a queen. And so although nothing really has changed but her ability to mask it and to make it up, we still feel like we're more validated in our ability to dress it up, because more people are giving us those likes or those check marks or, "Ooh girl, you fine," those compliments. And so I thought about the way that our crowns are made up of, like what they're made up of, and it's made up of social media, seduction, and a soldier. You know that song, I Need a Soldier. And most of the time with soldiers, they are the people who, you know, she says a rude boy that's good to me with street credibility. And it's something about having a soldier that makes us feel secure in who we are. And social media, if we're getting that constant liking and that constant, "Oh girl, you are so cute," and everything else, then we feel like, you know, we're legitimate queens. Our value has been elevated. And the same thing with seduction. If we feel like we can look nice enough to get those types of compliments, then we feel like, whether it be through our educational experiences or accomplishments or whatever it may be, whatever the new thing is, if we're able to accomplish that thing, we feel like now we're at value. And so really we're giving out of this empty place. Even though we're getting all this extra stuff, it's still something missing. I decided that I'm tired of being a queen to the standards of everybody else. And what I've found is that queens have become people who are qualified under everyone's emotional needs. And that's not okay. because depending on everyone else's emotional needs, that determines our value and our worth. And if we're not able to meet those emotional needs, then we feel like we are less than and we're not worthy of being loved or, you know, noticed or whatever else. And so I thought about the Weeknd song, Girl, You're Perfect, You Know You're Worth It, and how you earn the E. And so now you this cute thing and you've earned the E, but you're wearing the weight of shame and guilt, because everything that you earned in that weekend is built on sin, and you're ashamed. And so now you're all 50 shades of gray because your life just has turned around and you feel like you don't know yourself anymore. Here are the 3 things that I think that we've been fighting as far as this war is concerned, but in all the wrong ways. So let's talk about these 3 things. The first one is fighting for social worth with the tool of performance. So we feel like, you know, if we can find worth socially, then we are exactly who we need to be because other people say that we are who we need to be. So we take their voice and what they think about us as word. So it doesn't matter about how we feel about ourselves. So we can be very insecure, we can be on the brink of committing suicide, we can be depressed and down and out, and as long as other people socially feel like, you know, we're full and we're where we need to be, then we find a small bit of confidence. But then later on we find that it's temporary. It's not enough to fill the voids that we're filling in our lives because we're actually empty and needy. But our outside performance shows that we have everything we need. So we're fighting that social worth with performance. And what happens when you're not able to perform anymore for them, and there aren't any more likes and there aren't any more people saying, hey, I'm proud of what you're doing? What happens when you don't have a job but you're still in the will of God? And the same thing for fighting for relational worth with the tool of control. And so a lot of us have this idea that we can control guys into being the men that we need them to be for us. And even if that means that they're compromising their purpose in order to meet our needs and make us feel comfortable. So let's say we're insecure and we don't want him doing anything but hanging out with us. Well, maybe it's in his purpose for him to go do other things, but because that makes us feel insecure, he stays where we are. So we're controlling that relationships. Or maybe we know that we're being cheated on, so we do things like put my name on your shirt in case you forget you're taken. So we kind of use that whole method for showing people that we are loved and we have a relationship. And sometimes too we'll even do that thing of I'm single, taken, oh I'm busy making that money to validate or justify the fact that we're not in a relationship. Or we just look at other people's relationship and just kind of want what they have instead of just being thankful for the season that we're in at this present moment. And so somewhere we feel like relationships, not even just intimate relationships, but that's the one I'm focusing on right now, like intimate relationships determine our worth, because if somebody loves us, that means we're lovable. And the way we show that is through our ability to be in a relationship with someone else, and that's flawed. Also, we're fighting for spiritual worth with the tools of emotionalism and physicality. So what I mean by that is we are longing for our spirits to be full. And so what we do is we try to find things that keep us in the emotional space that we like to be in. And also the same thing with physicality. So as far as emotions, we like to be happy, we like to be surprised, we like desire. But if what we're doing around us doesn't line up with those things, then our spirit is empty. And the thing is, we need all of the emotions that we have to be in line and in check. And so when we decide that we're going to only feed things that make us feel those ways, then we're a little off balance, because there is something to learn through that process of getting over anger or being sad, because a lot of times that's what gets you back to that empty place, is the fact that you never dealt with those emotions that you don't like to feel. The same thing with physicality. We feel like if we can wear the Michael Kors and if we can have our hair on fleek and our makeup can be on fleek, then we can hide all the things. We can look full. And because we have all the things that other people want, or we have the next best thing. And so we're not measured based on our ability to meet society's standards as far as materialistic things, because those things can be easily taken away from us. But when you're full, when your spirit is full, no one can take that away from you. No matter what you're going through or what's happening around you, you're not defeated so easily. So I think sometimes we think that if we can get our emotions right and our physical world right, then things will be right. As long as the props are set up correctly, then we can have what we need. But that's far from the truth. We oftentimes, in general, work our way from worthless to worth it. And that's not of God. There is a scripture that says, there's a way that appears to be right to a man, but in the end leads to death. And that's really kind of the space that we've been living in right now. We've been living in that space that, if I can just work my way to worth it, if I can just get somebody to see that I'm worth it and I'm not worthless, then that's going to make me happy. That's going to make me full. So, a lot of us are working our way from worthless to worth it, when that is ridiculous, because that's not what God created us to be, worth it. So we're fighting a war that is not even ours, because we've already won that. It's been defeated already. And so we think that we're fighting, but just with all the wrong tools. We're fighting with performance, with control, with emotionalism, and with physicality, and all those things are going to lead in ruin. And yes, we're called to fight, but not that battle. That battle has already been won when Jesus went to the cross. And so it says in Proverbs 16:25 that there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end leads to death. So we're fighting this battle. We're fighting from worthless to worth it. Like, we can't fight anymore. But then we got to think about the fact that from day one, we were worth it. We were worth it. And that's what that weekend was about. Not the weekend where you had to earn the E, but the weekend where Jesus went to the cross to die for our sins, to take away the shame and guilt, and to allow us to operate in grace, and to allow us to operate in the fullness of God, because we have that direct connection and that direct relationship. And so that's where it comes back down to that whole progression of loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then loving your neighbor as yourself. We have to love God so that we can love ourselves and know ourselves, and so that we can love others. And a lot of us try to work our way backwards. We try to love others, then find a way to love ourselves, and then love God. And by then we're so broken that we don't see how He can love us, because we've been conditioned to be loved the way the world loves us. And so this is just a comparison between the weekend where you earn the E and now you're shamed and you're guilty and you're on this platform of sin, versus the weekend where Jesus connected us to eternity forever, and we never had to wonder if we were worth it, or and we're covered by His love and His unconditional love and His grace and His mercy. And so when I think about the lady who had committed adultery, I think about, how did she get there? Surely it was something that happened in her life that made her feel like she had to go outside of her marriage. And in this case, let's say we're not married, we're married to God. We have a relationship with God, and she had to step out and find other ways in order to get her value and her worth. And then she got caught up. She got caught up in being in somebody else's bed, somewhere where she didn't belong. And all the people who are around her, who maybe were with her before when she was performing well, are looking at her like, girl, you off. Like, you with somebody, you're committing adultery, blah blah. Like, they wanted to hold her accountable for something, for a sin that she was already shameful about. And when they brought her to Jesus, He didn't care about her flaws. And he brought everything into perspective, because they wanted to see how He was going to act. But He said, if you are without sin, cast the first stone. And no one, they walked away, because no one could cast a stone, because we're all with sin, and we've all fallen short of the glory of God and the grace of God, and we don't deserve His grace. But that's the beautiful thing about it. And then when they were all gone, it was just her and him. And that's the beautiful start of a relationship that changes everything. That gives us a chance to know our worth, and also gives us a chance to share worth with other people. So when she was left alone, he said, go and sin no more. And that's what we've been called to do. We've been called to love him with our whole lives, so that we may know who we are and why we're here, and so that we can also share that with other people. And we're given from a full place and no longer an empty place, because he's healed those broken places, and we've been able to be built up through our relationship with him. Now you're full of all the fruit of the Spirit. You're full of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And now you're on full. And so now you're giving of yourself something that was given to you from an unlimited source. Whereas before, you had a very limited source, so you weren't able to give how you desired to give. Of course, we're inclined to give those ways, but you have to be able to get from a source, or you'll become empty. And so now you're full of the Holy Spirit. He's leading you, and he's guiding you, and he's letting you know what you need to be doing concerning your relationship with God, with yourself, and with others. And now you're a confident woman embracing eternity's nature. And that's what a true queen is. A queen is not qualified under everyone else's emotional needs. We're confident women because we embrace eternity's nature. And so our relationships are a result of our relationship with God. They are not the thing that leads us back to God, only for us to go back out and try to give from an empty place. And so then you'll see fruit. Because you're grounded in his word and you're grounded in him, you'll see fruit in your relationships, you'll see it in your spiritual life, and you'll see it in your social life.